All right, let's call to order the meeting of August 9th, 2022. Let's open it up for Commissioner's public forum. Is anybody here from the public? All right, hearing nobody. Let's get on with the minutes and warrants and abatements.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for review from the July 12th meeting.
All right, can I get a second?
Second.
Perfect. Pete, roll call vote, please. Peter Boyer.
Mr. McLam.
Aye.
Mr. Coleman.
Aye.
And Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
All right, moving on, I'd also like to make a motion to approve the following warrants and abatements. Commissioner salaries, $375. Town of Oxford for electricity for the month of June, $5,933.85. WB Mason office supplies, $6.57. LaForte Electric on 211 Sunset, $2,026.11. WB Mason for office supplies, $6.57. Mass Waterworks Association at the August Expo, $99. Wind supply, water pressure gauge and supplies, $142.03. FM generator on Burlingame Road, $745.67, being a total of $9,334.80. And the following abatements as well: senior abatements flat, $343.38, and then the metered $422.20, being the total, bringing the total senior abatements to $765.58.
I'll second that.
All right, a second from Russ. Roll call vote, Peter.
McLam.
Aye.
Mr. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Jennings.
Aye.
And Mr. Cantwell.
Aye. All right, schedule appointments. Vinny, Violia's monthly operating report for June.
I'm going to be covering the monthly operating report for June 2022. The plant was staffed by myself. We still had a vacant grade 5 operator position, and Dylan Moriarty was also here. Health and safety, there's hand sanitizer, antibacterial wipes available. And June 2nd, Violia's monthly inspection report was completed. The training for the month was on heat stress and ergonomics, industrial or back safety. And we also did some May carryover, which was scaffold safety and excavation safety. Compliance for the month, we had a few exceedances. The DMO was entered into the CDX on July 15th. And the EPA permit writer also contacted us looking for the previous 5 years data. We collected all that data and supplied it to them. The exceedances during the month were not as bad as previous months. They're getting better, and by the following month, we have them almost all under control. But the effluent BOD weekly, we exceeded that. We only sample one time per week. So it's kind of, if we don't hit it with that one sample, this is how we get these weekly exceedances. So weekly BOD was 20.3, and our limit is 18 milligrams per liter. The effluent TSS, we reported a 22.4, and our limit is 18 milligrams per liter. And the total phosphorus was 0.18 milligrams per liter, and the limit is 0.11. The operations and maintenance activities for the month. We brought a bunch of samples throughout the month to Sturbridge to measure the UVT values, and that's UV transmittance. It's kind of like how clear the water is, but a few other things also fall into it. So it's a really special machine to measure that. We installed a new polymer pump in Comag Train 1 to try to get better performance of the flocking. Evoqua, which is the company who designed the Comag, and they also designed the RBCs, they stopped by to visit the plant, and They gave a few ideas, but not a whole lot. Excuse me? Okay. Yeah, so they made a few recommendations on how the system's intended to operate. And they're supposed to be supplying us a quote on coming in and actually going through all the processes and making sure everything's optimized the way it should be. But I haven't heard back from them yet. On June 9th, the COMAG trains, one was running really good, the other one wasn't. So we took train 2 offline, and that's a pretty big deal to take one of those trains offline. I mean, it's taking 50% of the flow and stuffing it into the other side. So it's not something we do just by throwing a valve. On June 23rd, we installed the new polymer pump for train 2. And you guys had approved us to purchase those 2 new polymer pumps. We started using a small scale so we could actually measure pounds for batching polymer. It's a powdered chemical, and we mix it with water in these big tanks. And previously we were using like a beer pitcher with a graduation mark on it. And we're being a little more accurate using a scale to actually weigh it out. Later in the month, we put COMAG train 2 back online, and we found a whole bunch of little bugs with the SCADA programming in it. So we took it right back offline. Woodin and Kern was here. We had some alarms that just kept repeating call out. I got like 70 phone calls in one night from it. So they came in and they put a delay timer on, and they went through a bunch of other alarms and figured some bugs out and straightened those out too. COMAG sludge pump number 3. That's the one that had the mechanical seal go bad. We pulled the pump out and we brought it to Ruby Electric to be rebuilt. And they're gonna epoxy coat the inside of it so it won't deteriorate anymore. On 6/29, we did RBC proficiency testing. Again, we do this at least once a month. We try to do it more. But we made some flow adjustments to balance out the RBCs a little better. And then by the end of the month, Sturbridge was sick of seeing us, so they let us borrow their spare UVT meter. And we've been using it every day since they gave it to us. The collection system activities, we collected MTA samples on the 2nd and the 20th. And the big dig over on Nugget Hill was taking place in June, early July. So we borrowed Sturbridge's tracing equipment and tried to trace out where that force main is. And it was pretty difficult to trace, but due to other things you could see on site, we had a pretty good idea where it was. So we were able to put a little paint down and give them some ideas where not to dig. Pump station activities. Nugget Hill on the 11th called out with no power. By the time the operator came in, it was back up and running. So we're not sure what happened there. On the 17th, 6 West had a power failure, and it was a strange one. So it had a power failure, but it didn't call out because it only lost power from one phase. So the alarm dialer was on the phase that didn't lose power. The one phase dropping out caused the generator to run, but it didn't transfer over because there was still line voltage, which caused the pumps to trip breakers. So it was like this big ball of events that led up to the operator calling me saying the pump station was about to overflow. And we called Slims in to suck it down while we figured out what went wrong there. And luckily there was no mechanical issues. It was just a simple reset the pumps and make sure everything worked right. But kind of strange. You don't see that every day. Let's see. No, 6 West, we installed some new LED 8-foot bulbs, and they're the ones with no ballast. So the wiring in the fixtures got to be changed to make them work. But they're nice and bright. We can see a lot in the basement now. On June 30th, Route 20 pump 1 was taken apart, and we removed a massive rags out of it. And we added fuel to 6 West's generator. After it ran for a few hours there, we wanted to top it off. Sludge for the month. We hauled 7 loads to Cranston for disposal. And during one of the days of sludge hauling, they broke down in the parking lot. So me and Dylan helped the Noonan guys blow up their air tanks in the tractor trailer and showed them how to actually pop start a tractor trailer. It's pretty, not something you get to do every day. Chemicals for the month. We ordered 2 totes, 275-gallon totes of sodium hydroxide. We ordered 1 2,700-pound skid of soda ash, and we ordered 440 pounds of polymer. Grinder pump calls for the month. We ended up at 59 North Sturbridge Road a few times during the month. The original call, it looked like the floats were acting up. I mean, every time we'd mess with the floats, it would either give a problem or not. It was strange. So we thought there was a bad float that was just giving us an intermittent problem. So we planned on going out there the following Monday. We went out the following Monday, and when we were testing the floats, we realized the problem was in the alarm panel. And that's when we called Ed LaForte Electric up and had him come change it. And then the other grinder pump call was at 19 Sunset Drive, and we just replaced the grinder pump. There were 88 dig-safe requests for the month, and that concludes the MOR for June 2022. Any questions?
I get a couple of questions, Benny.
Sure.
Going back to compliance real quick, the EPA permit writer contacted our staff looking for 5 years of stuff. Is that the permit that we've been waiting for a long time?
He didn't give any indication that he was getting close to finishing it. He's a permit writer. That's what he said he was, but he was looking for the toxicity stuff specifically. And I know when Zach was here, Zach had requested to stop doing toxicity testing. If you pass so many toxicity tests in a row, you can request to no longer take part in the program. And Zach had requested that. And I'm not sure if he was contacting in relations to that or not.
Okay.
But that's the data he was looking for. It was all toxicity based.
How about the operation and maintenance stuff? That COMAG train, is that up and running now? Or is that still offline?
So we got all the bugs worked out of it. We ended up having Woodard and Curran here again, and we did a bunch of programming. There was some programming issues that wouldn't let them both run together. That's all straightened out. It could run if we needed it to, but we actually have just one train running pretty good right now. So we didn't want to disturb anything by turning on the second one. So, like I said, it's easy to, switch over. It's a bunch of stuff, but it's not the end of the world to do. But sometimes when you switch back, you lose the performance that you have already. These things are really tricky to dial them in. So once you get it there, you kind of hope to keep it there.
That's all the questions I had. Anybody else have any questions for Vinny? All right, hearing none. Moving on for new business. Viola engineering proposal, Peter.
Yes, following up on the study that Viola and Wright Pierce worked together to do that was completed in the spring, the study was funded by the town from ARPA funds. The Board of Selectmen has approved an additional $200,000 from ARPA funds to help support or provide funds for this additional engineering proposal that we have in front of us. The initial study identified 3 areas for improvement at the plant. The first is retrofitting of the headworks building with new equipment and redundancy. The next portion is updating the chemical storage area to ensure code compliance. And the third is a fairly larger upgrade in the treatment process by removing 2 RBCs and replacing them with MBBRs to provide better BOD and ammonia removal. With this proposal, Veolia will design the improvements and establish a guaranteed maximum price for them. The fee associated with the work is stated below. if we were to do all three improvements in one project with Veolia and Wright Pierce, the project cost is $482,000. If we were to separate it and go at phase one, engineering for the headworks and chemical handling would be $193,000. And phase two, the design of the MBBR upgrade for a BOD and ammonia removal is $392,000 for a total of $585,000. So because they can, if they were to do all three phases at once, we could save $100,000. The completed proposal is attached for your review. In discussions with the town administrator and with Hans Thunblom, who's here from Veolia, my concern about doing all three components at once is phase one, the headworks building and the chemical handling portion of the treatment plant. We can improve that and know that it needs to be done and know it's the first step for any possible improvements that'll be needed in the future. If we were to go ahead and do the phase two at the same time, my concern is that if we get the new NIPD's permit, what we just designed or what we might be beginning to install with the MBBRs might not be adequate to have us meet the new requirements for the new NIPD's permit. And we may have to be doing some more engineering or redesign, or worst case, we may be possibly changing out some work that we just did. So I guess because the Board of Selectmen, again, they have already approved $200,000 from ARPA funds to help us move forward in this next step, I'd ask that you consider the phase one and two and GMP engineering for the headworks building and the chemical handling build upgrade. And we save phase two for after, when we know exactly what's going on with the NIPD's permit. In talking to Hans, the scope of work, there's meetings set up with the DEP. Hans sent us over a revised proposal that has some dates in there where if we start to meet with the DEP and they give us an idea of where the NIPD's permit might be or what kind of changes we can expect, that Veolia will honor the combined price up to 45 days from initiation of this project, or they'd be willing to discuss, possibly negotiate that price when we are able to pull the trigger for phase two. So Hans is here to answer any questions that you might have of him or Veolia, or any questions about the project itself.
I got to be honest, so I still haven't wrapped my whole head around this project yet, Pete. This $200,000 from the ARPA funds, does that go against the $482,000 that we want to spend here for the phase one and two?
Yeah, so if we just do phase one right now, which is the headworks and chemical handling, it's $193,000. So it would cover the cost of that. And from that, we would get design drawings from Veolia that they would be able to complete their work at a guaranteed maximum price. I guess maybe Hans, can you just describe how you can go about doing that type of work and providing us a price, and say a not to exceed price to do a project that you really haven't bid yet?
Sure. Yeah. No. Under Article 3.5 of the agreement that's in place between Veolia and the town of Charlton, we can do this type of work. We've done this for a number of communities close by, Ashburnham, Winston, Joint Water Authority, Gardner, Leominster, Maynard, and then a little bit further away, we've done it for Lynn, Massachusetts, and Swampscott. And now we're also, Veolia has merged with Suez, and I know there's several legacy Suez areas where we've done similar work in the area. So I mean, we've done this type of work We've done it under the, the provisions of the type of agreement. So, and we've done it. We've actually worked with Wright Pierce on a number of projects in all over New England. So basically, what it is it's a streamlined engineering process. We work closely with Wright Pierce. We work closely with the town. Well, the criteria has really already been identified. We know there's a budget, an estimated project. We are gonna manage the design to stay within that budget, and we're gonna develop the engineering packages, not to your traditional, 100% issued for construction drawings. We can get them to a point where we work with Wright Pierce, we work with trusted equipment suppliers, trusted contractors, and we can actually develop a not to exceed price to complete that work under Article 3.5 of the work. So I don't know if that answered it, Peter. If you have any questions, let me know.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I guess just to explain why, in my mind, why I'm prioritizing phase 1 for the headworks building and the chemical handling. Again, the chemical handling area might not be exactly code compliant at this time, so anything we can get done there will put us in a better spot in case we were to get any type of, say, OSHA inspection or state agency inspection. And improvements to the headworks building, I mean, that building is original to the original plant that was installed back in the early to mid 90s. And since that time, the treatment plant's been expanded, and the treatment capacity has increased at least twofold, while that headworks building, which is our initial point of treatment, has stayed original to what was there, and there's no redundancy. So if there's any issues, we're just bypassing any type of grit removal or screening, and a lot of that goes right through the bar rack and into the EQ tanks, and we're chasing that through pumps in the EQ tanks all the way up through the diversion structure, and I think if we can at least get that process going, it gives us a good start to get the plant ready for any additional upgrades that we might do in the future to help us provide the treatment necessary. So as we look at that new growth coming to town, you're comfortable saying yes. And it's not, well, we're not sure if we can take your additional floor right now because we don't have the ability to treat what we're currently getting.
Peter, do we have just a couple of things? So that headworks improvements, the specifications for that are also, they're selected to satisfy the requirements of the other downstream upgrades. If you do decide to proceed with the ammonia removal upgrades, the spacing of the screens are such that it would protect not only the existing equipment you have, but it's adequate for the ammonia removal equipment as well as the grit removal efficiency. That not only does it protect your existing equipment, but it would also protect that. So it is anticipating other upgrades that are needed in the future.
Peter, do we have the ability to go back to the town and get additional funds?
Through the chair, if I might,
Dave,
when Peter and I went to the selectmen, Peter made a very case for us for some of the Arbor funds. And this was sort of part of the reason I believe in breaking it down into the phases, because the selectmen did say, we'll support you guys on this first endeavor in the amount of X. And if you want to come back to us later and keep us posted, then maybe we can get additional funds along the way for phase. Okay. Is that correct, Peter?
So there's a possibility that if you were to approve the phase 1 engineering tonight, that engineering exercise would be funded from ARPA funds. Once we get that done and Veolia comes back to us with a guaranteed maximum price. We can look at that price, assess it, and go back to the Board of Selectmen. At that time, since my initial discussions with the Board of Selectmen, I believe we've always talked about anywhere from $900,000 to $1 million of ARPA funds to come to the water sewer department. After this $193,000 ballpark, we'd be, say, $280,000 with the initial engineering study that was done, and with this engineering proposal. I think that would leave us about $700,000 more we could ask for from the ARPA funds to help fund that project. And we have funding in stabilization that we could use to offset the remainder of that cost. So that would be my thoughts on funding whatever comes out of this phase 1 study. As far as phase 2 goes, if we were to go through that engineering process in the future, that's a different animal. And I believe in my discussions with some of the state and federal agencies, as long as we can show good electrical savings associated with that upgrade, there's quite a bit of grants available with it. Unfortunately, it's hard to show any electrical savings with the headworks building and the chemical handling area. There's no savings there. But to go from the aerated EQ tanks and RBCs that we have now to the MBBRs, in my initial discussions and what the Department of Energy, the United States Department of Energy people have seen, is that there are electrical savings there that would qualify us for grant funding for that upgrade. So I think it's better that we kind of take it in 2 parts in that aspect, because without having, again, the electrical savings for the phase 1, it might hinder our application to get funding for phase 2. So my thought is, if you were to say, yes, let's move forward with phase 1 tonight, again, this portion at $193,000 is already has funding available from the Board of Selectmen and the town ARPA funds to get this going.
Peter, what's the time frame if that's voted on tonight to get this actually done?
I think you would see results from Hans in spring of 2023 if everything goes well. I think, yeah, the proposed schedule has a delivery date for GMP of March 31st, 2023. So that would get us what kind of price we were looking for. And depending on how aggressive you could be, you wanted to be, we could ask the Board of Selectmen to commit additional ARPA funds, and we could go to town meeting in May to go ahead and fund the remaining portion of that from our stabilization. We're going to be having our fall town meeting where we go ahead and certify our retained earnings, and I think we're going to be adding hopefully a good amount of money to our stabilization at that point. And I think hopefully we'll be in a healthy place where for us to fund our portion, if the Board of Selectmen follow through with their ARPA funds, you might be spending 40 to 50% of your stabilization, maybe a little bit less depending on what we have at that time. And then knowing that next fiscal year, we're also going to be having a decent size retained earnings as well, with some of the bigger projects going on and the betterments that their privilege fees that they're going to be paying to connect to sewer. So I think we're in a good spot to go ahead and just kind of, take some small steps and keep on moving down that path and try and get some of this stuff done. And like I said, if you're in agreement and you think that if you agree with the priority that, yes, the headworks needs to be upgraded, the chemical handling building, again, in the grand scheme of things, that's a small portion of the project altogether, but get that done at the same time. And I think we'll go ahead and do what we can to fund that portion of the project. And then the next step is to move forward with the engineering for the ammonia removal when we feel a little more confident that we'll be able to get that funding and possible grant funding as well. But you're not going to want to do phase 2 without doing phase 1, because that new equipment will definitely not work well and will definitely have issues if the headworks building is not operating correctly.
Sure.
I'll make a motion. We get the ball rolling with phase one as discussed.
And I'll second that.
Roll call vote, Peter.
Okay, Mr. McLean.
Aye.
Mr. Coleman.
Aye.
Mr. Jennings.
Aye.
And Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
Great. Thank you all very much for your support. I appreciate it. And Hans, I will work with the town administrator to get this signed for you and get it over to you.
Great. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Hans.
Thanks.
Peter, the generator service contract.
Yes, we're still waiting for proposals from certain companies, so we're gonna have to put this off to a different agenda.
Okay. Let's see here. What else we have tonight?
Water line construction update.
Yep. Water line construction update.
Yeah, just following up on that. There are only a handful of water service connections left for Albany to complete. So they're working on those on private property only. GeoSearch has been completing the well abandonments, working through the Board of Health. As far as the Bay Path water situation in the school loop, I've attached a response from ExxonMobil regarding the water pressure issues at Bay Path. I've been in constant contact with Chris McClure from McClure Engineering, Jim Philbrook, Andrew Golis, Kyle Brenner, the superintendent of Bay Path, and Mass DEP is also in the loop with this issue. And we are working with ExxonMobil to find a resolution to this problem. You can see ExxonMobil's response there. And of course, they quantify it by saying they don't think it's their problem. Nonetheless, they're going to look into it and see what they can do to help find a solution for that problem.
So what's your thoughts on that, Peter? I mean, school's coming up pretty soon here.
My thought is that we still have not accepted ownership of that infrastructure in that school loop. And if there continues to be water pressure issues and Bay Path continues to lose water, then the Board of Health will go ahead and close school. And the DEP will get more aggressively involved, and it will be up to ExxonMobil to figure out what's going on. I'm hoping it does not come to that, but
yeah, it sounds awful.
It does. It's not where any of us want to be, but as far as what we have per se, the only thing that we have control over is when we accept the water line. You know, it was designed, it was reviewed, it was installed, it was studied, it was modeled, but for some reason, where that Bay Path pump station is, it certain times of day or under certain scenarios, it runs low on pressure and the pumps aren't able to pump water up to the school. So I'm not sure what the solution is going to be. I mean, you talk to 6 different people, you'll get 8 different ideas. So rather than me throwing out ideas for something that was designed before I got here and before any of us were involved, I'm going to let those who designed it reevaluate it and come up with a solution. And again, the system is installed. If they want to spend time and get real live data, they can, to see exactly what's going on instead of looking at a model. From what I'm told, they can take that actual data and they can calibrate the model and try and see what type of improvements they can do to help with it. So we'll see if that's an exercise that ExxonMobil is going to do.
Moving on here, other business.
Yes.
Unknown time of posting.
Yes, Mr. Gagner's on the meeting. Paul asked to be on our agenda because we were trying to find a lateral for his home he's building. The lateral was not located where we thought it was going to be. And Paul was asking to get put on the agenda to find out what we could do to provide him a lateral. But after that, Paul was able to hire someone with a camera that went down the sewer line and found the lateral located at a different position. So once he found the lateral, I thought there was no more need for him to be on the agenda, so I took him off. But he still wants to discuss some concerns he has with you and talk about some kind of what took place. So our as-built show a lateral to his property in the wrong spot. Those as-bills were provided by an engineer that, designed the line, oversaw the installation of the line in 2003, and provided us with as-built stamped drawings. Unfortunately, that where they said that lateral was, it was not. So Paul's contractor spent the better part of half a day there, a little more than half a day, looking for that lateral, and didn't find it. Luckily, they brought in someone with a camera, went down the other direction, and found it at the next telephone pole down the road. So when they were transcribing the field data onto the as-bills, they must have kind of messed up which pole they put the line for the lateral next to, is my best guess. But Paul was able to connect to the lateral that was left there. I believe Paul just wants to look to the commission for relief for the cost he spent for his contractor, again, to spend the better part of half a day looking for a lateral that we told him was in one spot based on our information that was not there. Paul, is there anything else you want to add? Or?
I don't have too much to say. You said it all for me.
I didn't mean to, but.
Indeed, the error was off by about 150 feet. It wasn't off 5 or 10 feet or something like that. And we did search quite a bit in both directions to make sure we didn't miss it. But I chopped down a bunch of trees to get an excavator through, and it's just when you kind of expect something's there and it's not, it's disappointing. And I just didn't think it was the homeowner's burden to correct the plans, the infrastructure errors that were made there. I think that's up to the sewer department to pay for the first, would you say, about a half a day. After that, of course, it's all upon me, which is expected. But well, that's all. I was just hoping that somebody could make a motion to have the contractor send that first half day worth of, I guess, wild goose chase to the commission, not to me.
How much are we talking about here, Paul?
I don't have the bill. It hasn't come to me yet, and this wasn't so much a question of money as it was principle. If you agree to the principle, and I'm sure the contractor will build something reasonable. Otherwise the sewer department would take it up with the contractor, not with me. And that's all. Like I said, it's been too soon. The actual pipe wasn't found until yesterday. And that was down 8.5 feet. We almost thought for a while we didn't find that one either, but it was there. So I can't give you a dollar amount on anything yet. The only thing we do know was the camera. We got a bill for that already. So,
based off past experience, Paul, personally, I don't think you're unreasonable in asking for some compensation from the town for misinformation supplied to your contractor per our as-built plan. But I can't go out on a limb and say, yeah, let's pay for the half a day and then find out that it's $100,000. So without an invoice in front of us and a reasonable number, I don't think that we could say we'd be willing to compensate anybody without knowing first what we're talking about financially.
Well, the town does hire people to do work, and you don't know the cost until the work is done. So they don't always get a price up front. So this would not be different in that respect. The other thing is, too, we could hold this off till the next meeting. By that time, I would think the bills would be in, and I can ask the contractor to separate my bill, which was the better part of a full day, compared to the wild goose chase day, which is only about a half a day.
I think
and
that's
then, no materials or anything else were involved with that.
My suggestion, Paul, let's take this under advisement. Let's get a bill, and let's put you on the agenda for the next meeting. And I think we should come back and discuss that a little bit farther. I personally, I'm not 100% convinced it's our fault either. We're just passing information along that an engineer gave us. Of course, we gave it to you, and that kind of puts us in the middle.
I know it's not your fault, but how many errors have there been on these plans lately? And it's always been the burden of the sewer department to correct it, not an individual. you know,
Sure.
there's been a lot of errors. I've been on the board long enough to know about many of them.
Yeah, listen, there's definitely an error made, no doubt about 100%. I'm happy there was a lateral there.
Yes.
Yeah, and let's be happy that it wasn't, you know, in the opposite direction. So we need to put a pump in or something, you know.
Yeah, it almost was. So
yeah. So that's my thoughts on that situation.
Okay,
Anybody
well,
else?
I would think by the next meeting, I'd have a bill. I'll ask the contractor to divide it in, you know, the two different sections, one for that first day and the other one for my end of it. And we'll take it from there, and I'll give you the amount. I don't know if you need me to come back or if you just need the bill and you've got enough information to discuss it. If you've got the bill in your hand, it's up to you. You just let me know.
Yeah, all right, sounds good. Peter, that sound all right with you?
Yeah, definitely. We'll definitely make sure that's on the next agenda, and we'll make sure we have the invoice from Paul, and we'll put that forward for discussion and see kind of what comes up from if any more questions come up. But
all right,
see how it goes.
Thank you, Paul.
Great. Yep. Thank you, Paul.
Good night, gentlemen.
Have a good night.
All right, Peter, moving on, help me through this situation here. Are we adjourning this meeting?
So again, we have an executive session packet to go into. So if there's no objection or no other business, the motion is a formal motion and then does have to be stated verbatim as it's on the agenda. And then Dave, as you're accepting the motion, after the motion's made, you just have to make sure you make that statement that the commission will come out of executive session for the sole purpose of adjournment. That way there, people watching now will know that you're not going to come out and discuss any other business and after you come out of executive session.
All right. So somebody make a motion.
So I'll make a motion to adjourn the current meeting.
No, it has to, again, under adjournment meeting and executive session, you see the quotation marks. It has to be stated, go into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, number 6. And just have to follow the rest. You just have to read the rest of that, Cam, if you don't mind, if you have it in front of you.
All right. So I'll make a motion to go into executive session under Mass General Law 30A, Section 21A, number 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, and lease of value of real estate. If the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiation position of the public body.
The commission will not come out of executive session for the sole purpose of adjournment.
It's a motion in a second. Roll call vote. Mr. McClam?
Aye.
Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Jennings?
Aye.
All right, and Mr. Cantwell?
Aye.
And again, as stated, the commission the commission will come out of executive session for the sole purpose of adjournment.
Yeah, the commission will come out of executive session for the sole purpose of adjournment.
Okay. All right.